Hey, welcome back to Coaching Concepts. I'm Edgar Jones. As me and Trevor continue this discussion on leadership and education, in this sit down, we talk about creating a culture of feedback. Hope you enjoy the video. When you have someone that's saying thank you for your feedback, that means to me that you went and seeked and asked for that individual's feedback. When we look at feedback, we've heard from different individuals about anonymous and non-anonymous feedback. What's been your experience with talking with different individuals around?
Man, that's a huge topic because, you can stand on this soapbox or that soapbox about anonymous feedback, non-anonymous feedback, and they both have their specific areas that they're useful in. But if you really look at a lot of studies and a lot of articles on anonymous feedback, a lot of people are skeptical that it's actually anonymous. Case in point, when I was an assistant principal starting out, I was the only one on my campus. So if you set up an anonymous survey that you're trying to get your people to give you this feedback, well, if you tell them what campus you're on and what your job is, for me for 3 years, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
So it was no longer anonymous. So you have to know what questions to ask, but really overarching non-anonymous, like, hey, this is my name, this is the date I'm giving you this feedback, and this is how I feel, as opposed to thinking that your name's not going to be attached. It's about the culture. And as a leader, you have to be able to create a safe place for your staff to give you feedback. You said something a while ago about somebody's like, thanks for listening, or thanks for that feedback. You said I had to go seek them out. No, not really. When I was going up and down the hall, that atmosphere was there. My staff knew they could talk to me. New hires, they would learn that over the course of a period of time. But there are many times when I'm in my office doing something else and a staff member would come in and say, I need a minute. And I could tell right then they needed a minute. So, all right, close the door, what you got on your plate? And they would just, let me know. You have to create that atmosphere. And if that atmosphere is there, I don't care if it's anonymous, non-anonymous, open door policy, your staff, they're not going to tell you how they're really feeling.
Yeah, and that takes time too, especially based off of maybe what was the past experience. Maybe somebody was there before you end up stepping into that role, but that's another conversation. But so Trevor, you talked a lot about culture, and it takes time to be able to build those relationships. But what does that look like? What does that walk us through? A couple things that you've done in your past with building that culture up.
Man, I can talk about my past. I think the number one thing is being open to feedback from your staff. In the classroom, you have to be open to feedback from your students. You might have an angry student. You got to be able to receive that and understand where that's coming from. And that goes all the way up. Even now that I'm out of education and talking with superintendents and principals all across, the state of Texas and then the U.S., I've talked to people who are kind of standoffish to feedback. I've had some people that say, I don't want to know that. And it's a valuable experience for me because I know myself personally, but I have worked with people and I've talked with lots of people that it seems they don't want that feedback. And, a lot of times it might be because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to feel like they're not doing their job. But as a leader, is so valuable, so important for you to be able to accept that, because you're in that role to take all that feedback and then make decisions based upon it. So as a leader, I believe the first question you have to ask yourself is, do I welcome feedback? Do my staff, and then follow that with, do my staff feel comfortable giving me that feedback? If those answers are no, then that's a question you've got to deal with on your own. Because you can have all the best strategies, all the best methods in the world, but if you don't know how your staff are taking those methods and how they're being used, what's the point? You're as strong as your people, and you've got to just take those steps. So a lot of times it's I guess a bit of nervousness that you don't want to expose yourself or open yourself to that feedback. What about the person who's always going to be negative? Well, if you're allowing that to come your way, shouldn't you go talk to that person and say, hey, what's going on? Be that leader and help them through that. And it takes time and it takes maintenance. because you're going to have people retire or transition. You're going to have people that are new come in, and they're going to be wanting to know what's going on. You know, how can I talk to these people, you know, that supervise me there or in office? And you just got to stick to it. You can't say to yourself, well, 2 years ago I was good at this and I should be good at it now. You've got to be intentional, but it all revolves around creating that safe atmosphere. And I think one of the keys to that, in addition to being open and being welcoming, is actually acting on feedback.
Thank you so much for checking this video out. I'm Edgar Jones, and this is Coaching Concepts.